Welcome back. Hey, Technical Brad here. All right, well, we've got a little project here that we're working on, and yeah, we're doing this one a little different. We're starting at the end, and we're going to take you back and show you the process of restoring this old street sign. This is pretty much what it looked like to begin with, the way it was weathered and painted and whatnot, and this, of course, is what it looks like now. We obviously did a few modifications, changed a couple of names on there to go with what we have going on here at the farm. But I'm going to talk a little bit about this sign. This is a LYLE sign. The LYLE company started back in 1900, and they made culverts steel culverts to put under streets for water to flow through. In 1912, they started making signs through a process they called carving or routing the material out, which was heavy gauge steel. They continued that process up till 1933 when they bought presses and got into what they called embossing signs, which is what these are. They're embossed, or we would consider them stamped out of steel. They continued doing that up until the United States was forced into World War II, at which case they retooled, like most of the other companies in America, to make munitions for the war effort. And the government also, of course, put restrictions on steel, so they weren't able to make signs. After the war, they continued making signs again. They grew their company multiple times over the years. They are located in Minnesota, not far from the University of Minnesota. And today they are still in business, and they make street signs or highway signs for all 50 states for the interstate system, as well as other signs and other products as well that they make. We got this sign. This is a barn find that we located out in the barn, and we decided to go ahead and do a restoration on it. We started shooting video. We've had trouble with our camera. Apparently it doesn't like the content of my channel and goes searching for another channel. Hopefully you guys don't do that. But we lost some of the video on it, so we're going to show you some parts of the video that we took on stripping this sign down, the materials that it's made out of, how you paint those materials, and end up with a product that looks like what we have here. So I hope you enjoy these videos. Okay, so we've got the components of our sign cleaned up here now. And what we did on the bigger pieces here, we use an actual stripper, paint stripper on this. This is obviously clean strip, paint stripper. You can use it on wood, metal, and even masonry. This stuff works really good. You brush it on as we did. I used a paintbrush, an old paintbrush, to brush it on. You let it set for about 15 minutes, and then I use a wire brush, an old wire brush, to get in here and agitate it around to get it to eat off all the layers of paint. And of course we have galvanized metal. Here's what we ended up with. The other parts here, now these, I soaked these in lacquer thinner. This worked well too. These were small enough to fit into a container with a couple inches of lacquer thinner in there. Let them set for, there again, about 15-20 minutes, and it just started to dissolve the paint off of it. The thing we got is this sign had been repainted by somebody. You can see where they brushed all this on here, and so I really wanted to strip it all down back to the metal so that we can get a good coat of paint on it and make it good and you know, weatherproof to be outside. But all the parts really cleaned up pretty well. That's the top cap of the thing. It cleaned up quite well, and of course the main piece here cleaned up quite well as well down here. So Yeah, happy about all that. Now we're going to go ahead and we're going to rust proof this stuff because we got a little bit of rust on there. So we're going to use the Rust-Oleum rust reformer and spray this stuff, and then we'll be able to prime it. And once we get the paint colors, we can paint it and do all that. Okay, so we have our pieces all cleaned off. As we stated, these are galvanized pieces. And what it was back in the day, it was considered called a hot dip galvanization. They had a solution of zinc that was melted. It was 850 degrees. They would take the part that they stamped out, in this case this sign, and they would dip it into the hot solution. This worked really well, not only for flat surfaces, but if you had some of these contoured surfaces that were tough to get into, you would actually dip them into a liquefied solution that would surround the entire piece. And that gave it a rust proofing property over the steel, so it would last quite a bit longer. The problem you get into is most of your oil-based or alkyd primers and paints won't adhere to the zinc coating of the galvanization of these things. So you have to be careful when you're painting this stuff. You have to use the right paint. And if you look at just this is a standard, and this is Rust-Oleum. Obviously, this is our automotive primer. We've used this on a lot of different steel pieces. And as we look up here in the painting conditions, which we're probably not going to be able to see, but one of the things is it cannot exceed 200 degrees. So you can't paint a part like an engine part that's going to possibly heat up to over 200 degrees, or use it on galvanized metal, as it says right here. So when you look at your spray paints or any of your paints, they will have painting conditions. It will have on there what you can and can't use it for. So what we ended up doing is we ended up going with Rust-Oleum Universal Bonding Primer. And this will bonds to any surface, as it says, firmly bonds top coats to difficult surfaces. And as we look on the precautions on the back of it, it also says don't use on surfaces that will be heated to 200 degrees Fahrenheit. But it doesn't say anything about galvanized metal. So we can use this on galvanized metal. And then once we have this top coated on all of our pieces, then we can come back with Rust-Oleum paint. And we're going to use the green. This is a Hunter green, because this will match the signs that we have to go with our system here. And on the back of it, it also says do not exceed 200 degrees or use on galvanized metals, it says right here. So when you're looking for your paint, it's first and foremost, you got to know what kind of metal you're dealing with. If it is galvanized, then it is a little different beast to paint. And make sure you get the right paints and primers, and it'll tell you on the can what you need to do and how to do it. So we're going to get this stuff set up, and we're going to go ahead and we're going to shoot it with the primer and then continue the process. Okay, so we have our signs, and we have them painted here, as we can see. They turned out quite nice. Nice, good coating of paint on there. And what we're going to do today is we want to highlight the raised letters. So all these raised parts, and even around the perimeter, we're going to highlight those with Rust-Oleum Satin White. And the white, of course, will stand out real good on our Hunter green, which is our base color here. And we sprayed that with Rust-Oleum. As I said, it is Hunter green. Now, this is a gloss protectant. So what we have to do, and it states this on the back of the can when you read this instructions on this, you want to scuff up the surface that you're going to paint. You don't want it to be smooth or shiny or a glossy finish like this. And that doesn't matter if it's painted or if it's stained with a seal coat or whatever it is. If it's shiny and smooth like that, you want to rough it up before you paint it another coat. And we're going to do that with sandpaper. You've got 220 sandpaper right there. This will work great. You can use a sanding block. These also come Oh, fine medium, 220, around the 120 range for the mediums. These work as well. I may try this on here. We'll see how that works. But what we want to do is, as we look at the directions on the back of the can, the dry time and recoat, now it says that it fully dries in 24 hours, which is what it says right here, and apply a second coat or clear coat within 1 hour or after 48 hours, which is what it says right here. This has been about 4 days since we painted these, so they should be good and dry to apply the white highlighted areas on it. But the first thing we're going to do is we're going to scuff this up a little bit. So what you want to do is we're going to take the sanding block here and we'll just rub over this, and this will get our high areas, and you can use a circular motion and just scuff these up. You don't have to sand all the way through it, but you just want to scuff them up a bit. And so as we look at this, we can see how it has scuffed it up. And there again, if you go around motion, you're not going to get noticeable lines in it. This kind of gives it a better finish sanding there. And actually the sponge, or the foam block, is working quite well. And we want it all the way to our edges. And just be careful with that. Now right there I got into the primer a little bit, but that's okay because we're going to do another coat. Now you don't want to go down through the primer because, as we remember, this is a galvanized metal, and the primer is very important to seal basically the galvanized so that we can put our coat of paint on there. So if we did sand through the primer, then we would have to reprime it again before we did any other top coats on it. Now we'll go around our edge here. I'm not pushing down on it at all, really. I'm just kind of dragging it across there because, like I say, we don't want to sand through. We just want to rough it up. Just like so. Now we can see that one roughed up. All right, so we'll get set up here and prepare to put on the white paint. So I'm going to go over this again. I'm going to roll it around just this edge just a little bit, because the paint is probably going to go around this edge here just a touch. So I would rather have it be able to adhere to it. Like so. And there we have it. So yeah, very good. And we'll get set up here to put on the white